and our revenue lines have also gone down. Reductions in remittances, reductions in trade flow, capital flight, etc. I think the DSSI, as we see it, provides some short-term liquidity, opportunities, but that in reality to be extended a lot more. I think the call to arms is that we should get more funding for the IMF and the World Bank and ensure that they work much faster than they do. There's real concern that going forward, we should look more towards growth than austerity and consolidation, or as our economies will come to an unnecessary halt.
Thank you, Minister. You don't. Okay. There is another question. Is a good segue. You talked about the debt. There is also a question on debt. The question stands as: would G24 support debt transparency? And it's seen that is also supporting G24 debt service suspension initiative. So the question is would there is any space for the private sector to go to this initiative, to go along it and to support their own needs? What would G24 say to private sector? Thank you.
Well, I think if you look at our communique, we're very clear that the private sector should come to the table to participate in this unprecedented turn of events, globally. And therefore, there's a need for us to sit at the table with them to look at a restructuring of debt that EMDCs have. I think that's a challenge that we need to take because these are unprecedented times. And I think in September, we had the first murmurs of a default from Zambia. And I think all of these could be avoided if we can begin, real and honest discussions as to the cash flow capacity of all of these countries.
Thank you, Minister. There is also one question related to Ghana. So this is coming to you, Minister. Question. So, what's your take on the economic outlook to Ghana, given the latest update that IMF presented, and what are the main challenges Ghana is facing in this COVID-19 environment?
I think for Ghana, we started the year thinking of a 6.8% growth, of which we pared down to 0.9. It looks like we may be able to eke something out between 1 and 1.5%, and that is the best we can do. Our deficit moved from 4.9 to 11.4, which is putting quite a bit of strain on us because of our revenue situation. We expect, however, to move really quickly towards intervening for recovery, and we've put together close to a $20 billion program to look at a Ghana Cares program where 30% will be financed by government and 70% private sector, so that we pivot off of this unfortunate situation and literally to take advantage not to waste this pandemic.
Thank you, Minister. I think we exhausted the questions. I don't see any more questions coming online. I think if Mary Lou would like to make any concluding statement, just to sum up on the main finding of G24 meeting, then I think we can wrap up. Please, Mary Lou. Yeah, just.
Okay, the communique is quite clear about the major priorities of the consensus priority of the member countries, particularly on the area of what could they do that would enhance their means to support an economic recovery. They've as the minister said, there's so much, the resources have been exhausted, fiscal and liquidity is tight. And so the issue is how the international community can come together and support countries on time and sufficiently to go through the recovery. On debt specifically, as mentioned, there really is a framework issue on the international, the sovereign debt resolution mechanism and architecture for sovereign debt resolution. As of now, case by case and voluntary creditors coming to the table might be difficult. Somehow here the IMF and other multilateral agencies should really take a look at how to improve the architecture for sovereign debt resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Lou. We have one more, I think the last question that came in. And the question is from Reuters, Mark Jones. He is asking, if there is a risk that some countries don't take up the extended DSSI if involvement of private creditors is also made a prerequisite, which then make it likely that rating agency would call a default. So he's just asking about what should be done in this situation, so what countries should do.
I think really that is sort of the moral crux of what we are facing. Given the extent of the pandemic, why should we all not sit together to avert a worse crisis? You know, at this point, about 1.6 billion jobs globally, you know, are moving into much more economic depression than they should be. Will the private sector come to the table? My suspicion is that we have not engaged them solidly enough, and we should do that. We certainly also need to move the US into the consideration of the SDRs so that more capital can come to the World Bank and the IMF. We need to get IDA 19 to be relooked at, possibly even double it at this time to ensure resources for the World Bank. So I think it's going to really take a very synchronized and coordinated effort by all parties so that we don't get into a world of cascading defaults. But we are confident that the right noises are being made. I think reality is dawning on most people, and I'm confident that we'll be able to extend the DSSI and that a new order will come into place by spring next year when we meet in Washington.
Thank you, Minister. I think that was the last question. So thank you very much for joining us and all presenting the views of G24. Stay safe and well, and thank you, Mary Lou, also for joining us. Just for all those who are watching online, stay tuned for all other events that IMF and World Bank is suggesting you virtually online. On the media side, tomorrow morning, a fiscal monitor press briefing, and then in 10:15 a.m. there is a managing director's press briefing for all of you. Again, thank you very much. Stay safe and stay well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.